Moving a 24/7 newsroom across an ocean nearly overnight is no easy task. But that's the situation the Washington-based team of Iran International found themselves in after a series of attacks on their London colleagues forced its British headquarters to temporarily close last year.
Their aim was to stop Iran International TV, and we couldn't let it happen. We had to do whatever we can to keep the channel on air.
Attacks against the broadcaster have been brash. Foiled assassination plots, a stabbing in London, and threats so serious that a reporter in Sweden moved to a safe house in June. Tehran is believed to be behind these incidents and more.
These kind of threats are increasing, unfortunately. And right now it is mostly targeting Iran International journalists, but there is no reason to believe that it will stop there.
Tehran is one of dozens of governments that engage in tactics known as transnational repression to silence critics outside their borders.
Iran for many years targeted journalists on its own soil, but what has started to develop into an industry on a huge scale in Iran has been transnational repression, targeting journalists outside the country, using the long arm of the state to try to silence journalists reporting.
Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs did not reply to VOA's email requesting comment. In Washington, the international legal team supporting Iran International is meeting with lawmakers, White House officials, and think tanks to raise awareness. A key issue, they say, is that governments tend to respond to attacks on their own.
And it's time that I think we catch up as states. We make sure that the governments are cooperating, that they're sharing knowledge.
For Iran International journalists, their families back home are also at risk of retaliation. Parpanchi says nearly all Iranian journalists he can think of have come under some form of pressure.
Threats can never become normal. No journalist should be subject to any kind of threats, specifically life-threatening threats.
Named after VOA Persian host Masih Alinejad, the United States already has a law imposing sanctions on those seeking to carry out Iran-backed attacks. But Gallagher is pressing lawmakers to take a more active role.
And were it not for brave journalists who, despite the risks, are telling us those stories, we simply wouldn't know what's happening within Iran. And that is something which should trouble every single American. And it's why we all must stand up for freedom of expression and for the right of journalists to do their job without fear.
While their lawyers look for long-term solutions to keep the team safe, Iran International's journalists continued their work, broadcasting to audiences inside Iran. Liam Scott, VOA News.